What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the wonderful podcast world? It's your host, Michael, the host of the Air Raid Attack podcast, is what you're listening to. And from a little all over the place, it's technology, of course, but nonetheless, glad to have an amazing host of the Girl Who Talks Sports, Sam Cardona. Welcome to the Air Raid Attack podcast. How are you doing this evening, Sam?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to be here.
Most definitely, a pleasure and honor to get on. Next month's gonna be a little busy work wise, so I'm trying to get as many guests as possible for August to make up and balance for September. But you never know. With COVID, unfortunately, things may change, and we may take it from one time to another. So
definitely.
First things first, of course, tell all the listeners out there a little about yourself and your podcast, and how can they listen to you?
Yeah, so my name is Sam Cardona. I am the host of the Girl Who Talks Sports podcast. You can find us on all podcasting platforms and on YouTube, also at the Girl Who Talks Sports. And my social media handles are Twitter is TGWTS Podcast, and my Instagram is just at the Girl Who Talks Sports. So you can find me on all of those places, and I just put out a new episode today, so you can go ahead and go listen to that.
I will be honest, I'm not gonna lie, I actually was listening to that on the way home.
Yeah,
so good stuff. I think I got to Aaron Rodgers, so I have to finish the rest, but nonetheless, excellent stuff.
Thank you so much.
So first things first, of course, no surprise for a lot of people, but Tim Tebow's run. I know you mentioned it on your new episode as well. Tim Tebow, his run as a NFL tight end was more embarrassing than I think his career as an NFL quarterback was. But nonetheless, is this the end of Tebow mania in your opinion? I mean, his blocking skills were not very great.
I'm under the impression here that Tebow will not be coming back into the league at any point in any position. I think that he was just kind of going for a Hail Mary here, in terms of he knew the coach in Urban Meyer going to be in Jacksonville. He tried out for the tight end position. They decided to give him a shot, but I don't think that he's going to be coming back into the league at any point in time, not as a tight end, not as a quarterback. I think that he should stick to what he knows, doing college football on TV. He seems to be very good at that. So I think that he should just stay over there and keep doing what he's doing. But yeah, no, I don't see Tebow coming back at all. I sure hope he doesn't, because I think that whole blocking thing this past weekend was just embarrassing for him. It was just not a good look. He just can't block, and that's okay. So I'm not expecting Tebow to come back, and if he does, he's got a hard shell, man. He's just ready for everything.
I was talking to a buddy of mine earlier, and he does a podcast for as well, but he does his own thing. But his thing is, could we see Tebow? And I said no, I don't really see this happening. But is Tebow one of these players, kind of like an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend, depends on the situation, to where they just won't leave you alone, or they want that yes, but you're going to continue to say no? He's never going to give up his dreams. I get that, and I applaud him for that. But what is he? I think 30, 34, mid-30s. I'm sure getting close to there.
Like mid-30s. It's
time to face the facts of life, and football is just not in his cards.
No, I don't think so. And I don't think that he's going to – I mean, I really would be surprised if he came back. I think that at this point, this has solidified it, that he's finished at least playing in the NFL. Maybe talking about it at some point in his career, but not going to play.
I know it was embarrassing. And I'm not going to make fun of it. He's a genuine guy, I'm sure, from what I see on the camera and all that. But what's more embarrassing, his style of play as a tight end, or his block, I should say, or the fact that he headbutted his own lineman?
I think that honestly, I think that he came out and put on a really good physical appearance. It was very obvious that he was lifting and he gained weight and everything. So physically he looked good, but the blocking thing, it was the spin. He fell on his butt. He got up. He headbutted his lineman. That I think was just a horrible look for him. Like everybody will be talking about that for a while. Like nobody's gonna let him forget about that. And unfortunately, it was preseason, and yet everybody was watching. So he's definitely never going to live that one down. And the fact that it's kind of in the same realm as the butt fumble with the Jets and Mark Sanchez. So not as bad, but definitely headbutting your lineman in the gut is not a good look.
Well, I wish him the best. I know the Mets. He tried out baseball and what was it, Triple A? I think he's winning up to our Double A's, and that's pretty impressive for a guy that I don't know if he's ever played since high school. But no, I think he does very well with the SEC, of course, network and ESPN. He kind of fits in the mode, especially college football, which is just right around the corner. And I wish him the best. And maybe coaching. I don't know if that's something he would be interested in. Obviously, not at a pro level. College, I don't know about that either, but maybe high school, something like to that degree. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe his his old high school might expect him to be an assistant or something there, but I don't see him coaching in any sort of college or professional football.
Oh no. Speaking of quarterbacks, I get a lot of this on Twitter and what have you. It's Drew Lock, of course. I'm a Bronco fan. If you can't tell, not from the hat, but the flag behind. But I'm kind of redoing the studio type thing. But what was your thoughts on his first? I know it's preseason, not, a lot of people don't get overexcited about it, but obviously he did come out and play pretty well for the most part. Is he, in your opinion, because I want to get kind of more of a different outlook on Drew Lock, of course, is he the starter, or do we think he's going to still be out in Denver eventually?
Honestly, I feel like Drew Lock is one of these quarterbacks that isn't wowing anybody where he is right now, but I have a feeling that he could be really great on a different team. That being said, I don't know if the Broncos are going to trade him or if they're going to get rid of him or, whatever they decide to do. But I just don't think that him and the Broncos are clicking. But I just don't think he's a bad quarterback. He's not horrible. He's just not doing anything fantastic in this team. So I just think that Drew Lock, again, could be better on a different team. I don't know exactly where it would be, especially next year with a bunch of different things up in the air in terms of performances for different quarterbacks and things like that. But I want Drew Lock to succeed. I like the kid. I think that he could be really good. I just don't know if it's working in Denver right now.
It's tough, especially from Denver. I haven't had a winning season since Super Bowl 50. And really when they play, last year, they unfortunately got stuck with a lot of, a lot of injuries to where, it didn't help when he lost Cortland Sutton literally before the season even started. But that offensive line was better than it has been. Garrett Bowles did pretty well, but I don't know. I like the kid. I like his swag. From what I hear reports, last year there's a lot of rift in the locker room. I don't know. Well, obviously we don't know because obviously we're not behind those closed doors. I don't really know if there was any rift or not. He showed some flashes. He showed some. I know Clyde comes on the podcast and he kind of defends the Aaron Rodgers trade, and of course, who wouldn't? But I don't know. I just was kind of curious from another standpoint. Drew Lock, like I said, he looked good, but again, it's preseason, and some people just can't take much out of that.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he will show up this year and prove us all wrong. But I feel like if Aaron Rodgers would have went to the Broncos, if that was the team that he ended up at, Drew Lock would have been way gone. Like Gonzo, DeMars, they wouldn't have even given him a second thought.
Of course, I can see you're a Giants fan. Daniel Jones, not a bad kid, but what's the feel around New York, that New York area, kind of what they're expecting this year? And of course, Barkley comes back after his ACL tear, and pretty crappy division, so obviously anything's up in the air with that. What's the feel like for the Giants?
With the Giants this year, what I'm excited about is that we have a lot of offensive weapons that we didn't have last year. I think we struggled offensively, which made Daniel Jones look quite terrible, honestly. It's a rough watch, but there was a lot of potential there. And I will die on the Daniel Jones train. I love Daniel Jones. I think that it was great when he got drafted. I was just like super stoked about it. He's literally like a clone of Eli Manning. It's fantastic. And I just think that with these offensive weapons that we have now, he has what he needs in order to perform well. And if that is not the case, if he cannot perform well with these offensive weapons that have been given to him, and the fact that our head coach and offensive coordinator are returning.
Yep.
This is the first time that he has two coaches returning for the second year in a row. So consistency is always key. If he doesn't perform well this year, it's not looking good for Danny Dimes, unfortunately. I really want to root for him, and I'm rooting for him hard. I want him to succeed. I want my team to succeed. But if that's the case, we do have 2 first-round picks next year, thanks to the trade that happened in the draft this year that the Bears gave us. So if that does happen, we have a bit of a safety net, which, again, I don't want to think too far ahead, but I want him to do well. And I think that he can, but if it just doesn't work out, it's obvious that it's not our team, it's him.
Correct. That makes a lot of sense because, people don't realize you're only good as your quarterback, and you can build a lot of talent around him, and he just may not perform up to par. And it could be one of those things, maybe just like a Drew Lock, Daniel. Oh, that's a good competition. Who would be better, Drew Lock or Daniel Jones? So I would say Danny Dimes would be, but I don't. That's a tough one.
I think that they're at a pretty equal level in terms of their talent. Daniel Jones, I think, has a lot more weapons, plus this year and last year. I don't think Drew Lock has what he needs in order to perform well. But yeah, I mean, I'll pick Daniel Jones. Just because I've seen him run 87 yards and he fell on his face. It was still a solid run from the dude. So I love Daniel Jones.
I'm sure he can tackle better. No offense, Tebow, but I'm sure Daniel Jones can tackle maybe a little bit better.
He's big. He's a big guy.
Yeah, he is. Excellent Duke quarterback. Yeah, he was phenomenal in college. Any thoughts? What was your thought? Could you see a Jimmy G from San Francisco going to New York if Trey Lance shows out like I think he might, even though it's still preseason?
It's funny that you said that. That idea was proposed to me yesterday on my podcast that's out this week. My guest that I had on was James from Boda. He told me, he was like, if Daniel Jones doesn't work out, Jimmy G could end up there. And I was like, it blew my mind because I didn't even think about it. I honestly, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I mean, Jimmy G literally has gone to a Super Bowl. He lost the Super Bowl, but he still went. That's a good accomplishment, I guess. But I don't want to throw Daniel Jones out quite yet. I want to see what he can do with the weapons that we've gathered for him, the run game, the deep ball, the wide receivers, the tight ends. So we'll see what happens.
Of course, the other New York team, Zach Wilson, his performance week 1 in the preseason wasn't bad. I mean, it's not, Broadway performance either. Obviously, we all knew he had a can of an arm when he came out of BYU. His performance wasn't too bad. But, a lot of improvement, though, nonetheless. But, of course, being a rookie. But do you think Wilson's, of course, we all thought Sam Darnold was the guy. Of course, I'm not, obviously the New York media is really, really rough. One of the roughest media probably in the country, but and rightfully so. But is Zach Wilson potentially the guy for the Jets moving forward?
You want to say yes, right? Like every year the Jets end up with this new quarterback, and every year it's the guy. It's the guy. I genuinely see some solid potential in Zach Wilson. Watching his preseason game, and yes, I mean the Giants lost, which is fine, but we won't go into that. Zach Wilson really did show a lot of potential. He didn't play super long, but I think the connections that he has with his receivers is pretty solid. Like you said, a great arm. Again, didn't do a whole lot of playing. I could think he completed 6 out of 9 passes.
Sounds about right.
Which is obviously not a lot of passes to throw. But I genuinely think that with him and Mike LaFleur as the OC and new coach with Robert Saleh.
Mhm.
You want the Jets to do well, like you want them to do well, and you want them to go out there and like be the Jets that they were in the 60s.
Well, of course, right.
But I just, I hate to say like, yeah, this is the guy now, like this is it, and then another one tanks because this is just where the quarterbacks go to die, unfortunately. But I like Zach Wilson. I think that he's got a lot of potential. I think he did really well in his preseason debut. And I think that he could be pretty solid for the Jets. I don't know if they're going to be going to the Super Bowl. But
Probably not anytime soon, but anything can happen.
Maybe they get a winning season.
Well, the extra game might be make or break for the Jets or Denver if they're in the race towards a playoff. But
right.
A buddy of mine, he hosts the Time to BS podcast. He's a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. I'm going to get your take on that in a second. And of course, he's a Jets fan he's living in the Long Island area. But kind of, I know he's on a date tonight, but maybe he'll listen to the podcast later and be like, cool. But speaking of Seattle, Pete Carroll, and I wish Dan was able, I may get him on some other time as well, but he's shown a lot of frustration about Pete Carroll, and at times rightfully so. Of course, he's still sour about Super Bowl 49, I believe, with the should have ran it, give it to Marshawn, and not pass it, whatever. But is how Russell Wilson did, and of course, the MVP potential Hall of Famer, I'm sure as well. Your thoughts on Seattle? I know he's going to say fire Pete Carroll, and he has his own reasons, and rightfully so. Some of them are legit. Of course, they just got done re-signing Jamal Adams for a pretty good deal as well. Is it time? I know coaches can overstay their stay. Of course, even college is big time as well. But do you think Seattle, if they don't get another Super Bowl, probably by 2023, that Pete Carroll really needs to be considered, or Seattle still in good position at being out the NFC West?
The thing is with the NFC West right now is that it got really competitive. Like, this is probably one of the strongest divisions in this league, between the Cardinals and the 49ers just like absolutely blowing up. The Seattle Seahawks consistently make the playoffs, and I think that is something that's keeping Pete Carroll his job, that they are still a good team. But divisionally, they really struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that there are a lot of other teams in this division that are a lot better than the Seahawks. I don't know if Pete Carroll's going to lose his job, especially with Russ still there, and they just signed Jamal Adams to an extension. I don't know if his job is on the line because of how consistent they are with making it to the playoffs, but I think that it used to be like that division used to be theirs. Mm-hmm. And it's just that's not how it is anymore. I mean, I think that the Cardinals are going to be one of these teams that surprises a lot of people and even makes it possibly to the NFC Championship game. They are strong. They are phenomenal. I mean, I think a lot of people underestimate Kyler Murray, but with DeAndre Hopkins there, that is a solid team. JJ Watt getting into the mix as well. It's going to be a lot bigger than I think a lot of people are expecting. So, yeah, in terms of the Seahawks, again, consistent, but not wowing anybody anymore, I don't think.
Of course, I'm going to say I'm an OU fan for college football, and Dan, good guy. I kind of want to see if I'm on the right track or if I'm just literally being a homer bias kind of guy when it comes to Kyler. Is it possible to easily say that the Arizona Cardinals can easily be the dark horse, could surprise some people in the NFC West, could potentially win it, and even make the Super Bowl? Or am I being too much of a homer when it comes to Kyler Murray?
I like Kyler Murray. I also have a soft spot for the Sooners. Baker Mayfield is very, very close to my heart. There. I adore him very much. I love him. But yeah, I think that like I said, they're definitely going to be someone that you got to watch out for them. They have a lot of big powerhouses in this team now, and they are just solid. And I just, the thing is that the only thing in that division is that the 49ers last year were really disappointing, but it was because they had so many injuries. So now that there aren't as many injuries and a lot of people are really, healthy and strong, that is another team that may or may not be the reason why the Cardinals don't make it, unless they're like a wild card or something. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to see the Cardinals play. I think in the first round they drafted Zaven Collins, which
Yep.
was going to be a really solid addition to that team. I think that he was a sleeper in this draft and that the Cardinals saw that and really jumped on that opportunity. So I'm really excited to see the Cardinals play this year. And I love watching DeAndre Hopkins play. He is one of the best wide receivers in the league.
He's definitely I totally agree. He doesn't get enough credit as I think he should. He's definitely one of the top in the league in receiving. Of course, Kyler can do a lot of things through the air. Of course, with his feet, we all know his speed. JJ Watt coming to Arizona, which I thought was interesting because I really didn't think much of Arizona being a potential suitor for JJ Watt, but Vic Fangio, Vance Joseph did a wonderful job with that defense, and they're looking really good this year on defense.
Yeah, definitely. I think that they are really going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Of course, Baker. I got him, and I think Dan. I don't know if Dan's still on here. There are a lot of comments coming through, so I'm gonna get to those in a second. But I'm just like you, I'm a big Baker, of course, being a walk-on at Oklahoma, transferring from Tech to OU, of course, Heisman Trophy winner, and so on and so forth. I like his swag. What he did at Kansas with the below the belt gesture. Okay, whatever you call it what you want, but is it? I'm definitely probably a homer on this one. But could Baker Mayfield really be the MVP, league MVP? I think I called it on Dan's show when he had someone on, commented Baker Mayfield MVP this year. I like his swag. I like Cleveland. I got Molly coming on next week talking strictly Cleveland football, but I'm not a Cleveland Brown fan, but boy, I'm really on board what they got this year.
I agree. I think that hot take, the Browns are going to make it to the AFC Championship game this year. I don't know if that's absolutely outlandish or not, but I love watching Baker play. Like you said, his swagger is phenomenal. I love the presence he brings to this team. He's finally the guy that is giving Cleveland hope. Between him and Kevin Stefanski, the two of them together, like that's what's working. It was Baker was always there. There was just no coach to work with him. I mean, the Freddie Kitchens year was just god awful, just horrible. And Freddie Kitchens could have, I think he was a tight end coach or something for the Giants last year, maybe, or I don't even know if he's still. I don't think he's still on our staff. I don't know. Maybe he is. I have no idea. But he was not a good head coach, and it showed. And Baker and Stefanski working together, the whole dynamic within that team, even with Odell there. I mean, Odell may be a hit or miss in terms of whether or not they're going to keep him around. But I'm with him, Landry, Cleveland Browns are something that a lot of people are going to, again, underwhelm, but I see them making it to the playoffs again. I think it's going to be between them and the Ravens in the North. I think that that's going to be the two teams. I really don't think the Steelers are going to be all that great with Ben sticking around. That's just my personal opinion, but the Browns are so great, and I loved watching them in the playoffs last year. They did phenomenal.
I'm not, people are like, oh, you're a homer because of Baker. Okay, fair enough. But no, Cleveland, I have nothing against the city. I don't, I'm not like Dallas, for example. I can't stand Dallas. I don't like Dallas. Yeah, there's nothing between Denver and neither between Denver and Dallas. There's nothing, rivalry there, but I just don't like Dallas. But nonetheless, Cleveland, I feel bad for them. If there's a fan base besides the Cubs until they won the World Series, if there's a fan base that's so passionate, and I feel bad for is Cleveland because literally they're going to go out there 0-16, and yet they can still show up and literally yell and scream and everything else. It's just the passionate fans, and I kind of feel bad for them.
Yeah, and I think that this like this past season definitely gave them like that boost that
Mm-hmm.
was so needed. Like they've been going through so many years of just being god awful and just the 0-16 season, just not winning any games. Like I can't even imagine going through an entire season just not even get one win. Like you never like that just sounds so horrible. And like I've been through, like 3-13 seasons and those are rough. So yeah, Cleveland definitely deserves this. I think. I don't know if they're gonna make it to the Super Bowl or not. I don't think it's gonna be like insane, but I can see them making it to the championship game. Like, why not? Why not the Browns?
I mean, if there's a team out there that has not won a Super Bowl, um, that I would rather watch win, it's Cleveland, just because the fan base needs something. I mean, I get they won the NBA, but we're not talking basketball. We're talking football, and the Browns gone through so much. I mean, let's be honest. They were gone for a while and came back in '99, and yeah, whatever, up and down. I mean, I'm with you. And why not? Why can't the Browns win it?
Yeah, I and I'd love to see them do it. It would honestly, and I'm not even a Browns fan. I would just love to
No,
see like that would be great for them. But I love Baker. Especially when he planted the flag at Ohio State in the middle of the field. That is when I fell in love
yes,
with him. I remember seeing that game and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy is fantastic." I also don't like Ohio State, so it was like great for me. I was like, oh my god, this guy is like just as petty as I am. I love it. And then I fell in love with him. He got drafted, and I was like, oh, all right, Browns gear it is. I have like 3 or 4 Baker Mayfield shirts.
very nice. I know a lot of people don't like college football and don't watch. A lot of people consider it amateur, which whatever, take your guess. But do you actually follow college football, or do you just kind of watch it periodically?
It's pretty periodic. Again, I follow it like the main games that
Hmm.
happen. Most of the time I'm watching Alabama games. I don't know if that's just because they're winning or what, but I just always like tune into Alabama games. A lot of
Yeah.
times I'll see it just to say like, oh, I know this guy's going to, be in the draft next year, and I'll watch him and kind of see where he's at in terms of, his performance and things. But I don't pay attention too hard to college until draft time comes around,
Right.
because then obviously that's when we have to, pick out prospects and things like that. But normally it's just kind of periodic with watching it like religiously. But I know there are some people that are so hardcore into college
Hmm.
football. It's crazy.
I'm probably both. I'm pretty equal college and NFL. NFL, there's not obviously a local team in Oklahoma City, and so you kind of had to pick your choice. Denver's mine, and that, like I said, anything in Texas, I just can't stand. But but nonetheless, of course, Alabama. Mac Jones. I'm not. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of him. I think he's personally overrated, and that can probably be a hot take as well, to an extent. But one hit wonder, of course, came back. He was a third string to Jalen, eventually to Tua. Then he's back up to Tua. Then he became a starter last year, 1 year, and then won national champion, which is cool. Congrats. Won a national championship. I don't see nothing special about him besides he's a funny looking dude that I could easily see. I hate saying this, but it's a really bad comparison, but I just get the vibe that he's going to be like the next Paxton Lynch 2.0.
Wow, I forgot all that. Well, he was a Bronco, wasn't he? Paxton
Mm-hmm,
Lynch.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I totally forgot about him. The thing with Mac Jones, all right. Well, I think that I think he's a good quarterback. Like I think
mm-hmm.
he's just solid. Like he will
He's
do what
definitely a talented
needs
quarterback.
to be done.
Yep.
Personally, I don't know him, but I don't like him as a person. I don't when he got drafted to the Patriots, which of course I very much dislike the Patriots. I do not like them as a team. Bill Belichick is, he cheated years ago, and I
Yep.
will, there's no argument there. But when he got drafted, he was so confident already. Like he was literally walking up to the podium like with this like jig in his step, like, yeah, I'm going to the Patriots. I'm gonna be great. Da 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 da. And I was like, you like that just rubs me the wrong way. I
Mm-hmm.
don't like when you're confidence is great, but cockiness is very different. I don't like when you're being too cocky, and he's still, they still have Cam Newton. there's still a quarterback competition going on, like it's whether or not, Mac Jones ends up starting or Cam Newton ends up starting is up in the air still. But Mac Jones, there's something about him that I really don't like, and it just added fuel to the fire when he went to the Patriots. It just did not help at all. So we'll see what he does. Again, I think that in his preseason game, he had a fairly regular game, like nothing out of proportion, nothing crazy, but it was enough to be okay. But that's really all that's what I got from it, and that's just from like the statistical point of view.
I got nothing, and I respect Nick Saban what he's done at Alabama. And yes, Alabama produces NFL talent. Not all the time do they work out, but nonetheless, they still get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
I just, with Mac Jones, he's got the talent. Yes, not knocking that. He just so much reminds me of Paxton Lynch in a way to where literally Paxton had that one good year at Memphis. Oh, he's literally the savior of Denver, comes into Denver, really sucks it up. And here comes, and then Mac Jones, third string backup starter, national champion, New England Patriot. Okay, cool.
Yeah. The thing is that him coming in is that all Patriots fans are jumping on the fact that he's the next Tom Brady, which is literally, you
insane.
have no reason to be saying that. That's just not good at all. But yeah, Mac Jones is going to be a solid quarterback. I just don't think he's going to do anything phenomenal.
I could easily see average, I think, when it's all said and done. I think, will he win games? He's going to win games. Playoffs, I can't predict that because you don't know how the season's going to go. But Super Bowls, again, depends on how that. He's going to be decent. I just don't see starstruck Hall of Fame Mac Jones. I'm not seeing it.
Mm-hmm. No, me neither.
One quarterback, and I was a little surprised, but, we're talking busts and is Josh Rosen. Is Josh Rosen still around in the league?
He just got released by the 49ers.
Oh, Jesus God.
Yeah, so he's out in the wind now. Whoever ends up getting him he's a free bird. But he was the chosen Rosen. Everybody was talking about him for so long. Didn't do anything. Kyler Murray came around and just left him right out of Arizona.
He was definitely the hot commodity, of course, out of UCLA, and I knew Denver was mentioned, and I mean, literally all these teams were mentioned for Josh Rosen. Of course, he fell, and so on and so forth. And no, we were talking about quarterbacks, and Paxton Lynch not doing so well, and I was like, you know what, I kind of want to say I may know what Josh Rosen is. Yeah, no,
he literally got released a day or two ago, like very recently, like within the past few days. So it just happened. And he was on the 49ers, but like they don't need him there.
They got Trey Lance.
So they were like, well, we're not wasting cap space on you. See you later, dog.
Justin Fields. Pretty good performance on Saturday.
Yes.
I mean, people are like, well, it's just preseason. Okay, but still, he looked phenomenal. Boy, you don't want to talk about controversy. Nick Foles. Justin Fields, Trubisky obviously is gone, but if I'll be honestly, I know you want to go experience, but you want to talk about one-hit wonder. Boy, I feel bad for Nick Foles. He's got a statue, I believe, out in Philadelphia.
He does.
Hall of Fame, Super Bowl MVP, and now he could potentially be with either without a job or backing up Justin Fields.
Right. In Chicago right now, it's weird with the quarterback situation because Andy Dalton is there, and Andy Dalton has come out and said like, "This is my time. Like I'm going to play." I just saw Baker Mayfield's Instagram story, and he said that the whole thing was taken out of context. So I don't want to speak weirdly on it because I don't know what the whole "it's my time" meant. But yeah, I mean Andy Dalton and Justin Fields are basically going back and forth. Nick Foles thrives as a backup quarterback. I don't think he should ever be a starter again. He just does really great as a backup. That's just like where he needs to live. But with Justin Fields and Andy Dalton, I think that the Bears should start Dalton. I think that he should be the person that comes out and begins the season. Down the line, I'm sure Fields will come in because Justin Fields is going to be the reason why Matt Nagy and the GM, I think Pace, are going to keep their jobs.
Yep.
And that's just the bottom line. He is a great quarterback. We saw him do really great this past weekend. He had a rushing touchdown, a throwing touchdown, one of the best performances of the weekend. Andy Dalton is a solid quarterback to have there, but he's not the future, obviously. Justin Fields is the future. I think that they're making the right decision starting Dalton and then eventually leading into Fields. And that way it gives him a little bit more, feel for the league before he just jumps into game one.
I could easily see that. I think it's going to be sooner than later. How far into the season you think we might see Fields on the field as a starter, or we could see literally, let's say, week potentially 13, depends on how the playoff race is.
Yeah. My initial thought is that I just have a gut feeling Andy Dalton's going to get hurt and that Fields is going to come in. When that happens, I don't know. But
right.
It might not even be that late in the season. Maybe unless Dalton is coming in and that he has not lost a game yet and he's coming in and winning them games, they're not going to bring in Fields. Right. But when something happens like last year with the Chargers, Tyrod Taylor got hurt, Justin Herbert came in, Justin Herbert's the star. So it's sometimes it's really something sad happens and then something great happens for the team. But I just think that that's going to be the vibe unless Andy Dalton absolutely stinks the place up, does awful, then they bring Fields in.
I like Justin Fields. Of course, a lot of people thought at 9 that he would be Denver, and of course he fell. I think, 15 or a little after that. But I think he's going to be one of those quarterbacks that a lot of the first X amount of teams that needed a quarterback are going to regret not drafting. Of course, keeping quarterbacks, and I don't like Joe Burrow. It has nothing to do with LSU. And Dan, I don't know if he's still on his thing watching or not, but a lot of people think it has something to do with LSU torching Oklahoma in a Peach Bowl. Cool. I just kind of like what you said earlier on him. I just don't like the cockiness.
Okay. I personally love Joe Burrow. I'm very excited to see him play next year, fully healthy, hopefully. Yeah, but what I kid you not, when he went down in that game and tore his ACL, I was screaming at the TV. I was like, this cannot be happening right now. I think that he has that same kind of vibe that Baker does.
He's got just in a different way.
Yeah, and it's fine to not like a team because they beat your team in a bowl game. But no, I like Joe Burrow, and I'm very excited to see what ends up going on with the Bengals. I hope that they have a strong offensive line because if that is not the case, unfortunately, Joey might go down again, might get hurt again, and the whole dream of him with Jamar Chase as his his buddy and his receiver out in the field, it's going to get crushed real fast. So I hope that they've been working really hard on their offensive line because that's where it needs to be. That's where the strength needs to be. And then Joe Burrow can ball out the way that everyone expected him to do last year.
I like the Jamar Chase pick. I really thought I can't think of the kid's name from Oregon, the right tackle. I really thought that should have been their pick, but I get the LSU connection and what have you.
Was that Penny Sewell?
Yes, the Penny Sewell.
Yeah, I wanted them to pick him as well.
I did too, because I really think if Joe Burrow can, and you mentioned it, and I totally agree, if Joe Burrow can get some protection,
yes,
he'll be fine. If he gets beat up,
it's going to be bad.
Have a very long career.
The Bengals are going to just be at square one, and Joe Burrow, unfortunately, is going to be, a legend, almost a myth. No one is even going to know that he existed if he gets hurt again. So I hope that their offensive line got stronger. And I was pulling for Sewell to get chosen by the Bengals, but when they went Chase, I was like, oh, man, can't throw to a receiver when you're on the ground. But we'll see what happens.
I think I tweeted out something like, well, hopefully insurance. I forgot what I tweeted out, but I like the pick. I just wish they would have gone a little bit offensive attack or offensive line to protect them. But again, that's why the GMs are there and why
they must see something we don't.
Exactly. I mean,
who knows?
But speaking of quarterbacks, and you're familiar with, is Jalen Hurts. Philadelphia. Of course, did pretty well at Alabama. Pretty decent at Oklahoma. I mean, it was good for a year, but nonetheless, a second rounder. Of course, not in the 2020 draft pick or draft selection. But your thoughts on Jalen? I like him. He's got to learn how to read down the field. Obviously, you seem a whole lot better than I do. What does Philly get with Jalen? And is he even? And again, Philly with another quarterback issue. Is Jalen the guy at Philly?
My problem with the Eagles is the fact that they haven't named Jalen Hurts as their QB1 yet. I don't know what their coach. I mean, it's their new coach, Nick Sirianni. Right. I don't know if he's just trying to kind of brush up some storylines or what have you. There have been talks about bringing Desean Watson to Philadelphia if that's a trade that ends up going down. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I think Jalen Hurts deserves better than Philadelphia. I genuinely think Philadelphia is going to be very terrible this year. I don't know if I'm just biased because I want them to be very terrible this year.
You want them to be terrible. Let's be honest.
I mean, they also blatantly tanked a game last year with the Washington football team, which meant that the Giants didn't go to the playoffs. But we can't go through all of that emotional baggage that I retained with that game. It was horrid. Oh my goodness. But I think Jalen Hurts has a lot of potential to be a fantastic quarterback. They have Devontae Smith now, who unfortunately I believe has a leg injury. I don't know what his timetable is to come back, but Philadelphia could be good. I just don't know if they will be. They have a lot of moving parts. They have a lot of new people coming in, a lot of growing pains. Jalen Hurts, again, I wish he was somewhere else. But hopefully Philadelphia can give him something to work with. I mean, he was next to Carson Wentz. I mean, I'm sure the guy knows a lot about football and he was able to learn some things from him. But I think Carson leaving was one of the best things for Jalen. And again, hopefully he does perform well. I mean, not for me. I don't want the Eagles to do well, but I do like Jalen Hurts.
I'm kind of like you. I like, of course, the AFC West, I just want us to get a good season. But, now for the West, you got Justin Herbert's, he's a stud. Of course, we all know Patrick Mahomes,
Oh, yeah.
But Derek Carr is not too shabby. But, I like Jalen, sticking with the NFC East. And I like his weapons. It's going to be interesting. I think he'll succeed. Just he's got to learn how to read down the field. I just a lot of times he just wants to throw, but Dallas. Dak, of course, injury prone. Injury issues. My take with Dallas has always been as long as Jerry Jones literally is in the head of every department of the organization, they're not going to win.
Jerry Jones is way too old.
He's
never going to leave.
Well, no, and that's the thing. He has too much control, and
he'll leave when he's dead. He's not leaving that team until he dies.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm with you on that. Yeah, he's not going to give that thing up. He's got too much in the stake, and he's built practically the new AT&T Stadium. And But if Dak is out, which his injuries, I know they're trying to play it by ear and put him on a DL, but if he can't stay healthy, they got, of course, contracts galore racked up down there. What are we looking like for Dallas? Because it's not going to be pretty again. Of course, I love when they don't make the playoffs, but I mean, being a non-hated person towards Dallas, realistically, they got some issues down there.
No, they definitely do, and they've been patching a lot of them up, one of them
Mhm.
being their defense. We saw their defense perform in the Arizona game this past weekend. I think that with the addition of Micah Parsons, they really made it a lot better than it was. That
Mhm.
was what they needed to focus on. I believe like almost all of their draft picks this year were defensive, with like
Correct.
maybe two or three that were offensive. So they're definitely patching up those holes, and I think that they're doing a very good job there. With Dak, I don't know, because I've been watching Hard Knocks on HBO, which is
Mhm.
highlighting the Dallas Cowboys right now, and he is currently limited in throwing. His shoulder, like, I don't think he tore anything, but he hurt it, and they're being very careful with him. He has a minimum throwing capability. He can only throw a couple passes in a game, and otherwise he's just been working on his footwork. The good thing is that we've seen Ben DiNucci, which is one of their backups, be pretty solid. So if Dak does go down, they do have a solid backup, but that's not what you want. You want Dak to play. You know, you
Right.
want him to be the guy that everyone expected him to be last year before he went down. I think a lot of
Mhm.
people were expecting Dallas to be the team that won the division last year. And once Dak went down, that just was never going to be the case. They are just, I hope that Zeke too is working on his ball handling. He just is butterfingers, apparently doesn't know how to carry a football in the National Football League. But Dak, definitely, we need to keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
Like you said, injury prone now. Top half, bottom half, like he just seems very fragile right now. But I think that his motivation is there, and that's half the battle a lot of the time. So hopefully Dak can be a stronger quarterback and not get hurt again. And the Dallas Cowboys have a very solid chance this year, especially with their improved defense.
I like their defense. Of course, I really like the receiving core, Cooper, of course, CD Lamb, and I
Yes.
would like the running back core. Like you said, if Zeke can hang on to the ball like he can hang on to a bowl of cereal, I think he actually might be he might be all right.
Right.
He may have to lose some pounds and all that, but whatever. But
Yes,
no,
he
I think
definitely gained weight.
yes, he has.
He's not wearing his crop tops anymore, which means his abs are gone. So he's definitely put on some pounds.
I'm working on my weight loss, so I ain't gonna speak on that. But when you're a running back, you're gonna have to kind of need your abs back, because that's a huge part of the game, to not be so exhausted, and unless they're gonna build them up to be the next refrigerator Perry,
Right.
the fridge at the goal line and running in. I don't know, but no, I think I agree. I think Dak also gives the Dallas Cowboys a much better chance to win compared to Ben DiNucci, even though I still like that name. But we'll see. I mean, hopefully, I like Dak. I got nothing against Dak. I kind of, it's interesting how we went from contract extension. Now he can't stay healthy, but that's part of the game. But Washington football, what's your thoughts on them this year? I like, of course, Chase Young's just a beast.
Oh yeah.
On that D line. Man. What's it looking like out there in DC?
With Washington, like their defense, very terrifying. I'm very afraid of their defense, and we have to play them twice a year. Their offense, on the other hand, they're working on, with Ryan Fitzpatrick there, I am like going side to side thinking about how I feel, because half of the time he is so freaking good, and it's terrifying to think about that. But then the other half of the time, he's just hit or miss, like you don't ever know what Fitzy's going to perform like. Sometimes it's just like this outstanding game, and then the next turn, nothing, it's just horrible. So I think that the strong point in Washington is definitely the defense. Chase Young is, even last year as a rookie, just phenomenal. He was just really, really great. But Washington definitely has a strong run for that division. I think our division is like weird, that like we're all bad enough that we're all equal. So like it's a very competitive division.
It's literally a wide open division.
Yeah, like nobody really knows what's going to go down, and that's what's really terrifying to think about, because it's like, if Dallas is healthy, if Dak is healthy, Dallas is great. If Washington stays healthy as well, like they're going to be great. if Daniel Jones has what he needs for his offense, that team's going to be great. Philadelphia, they might just they're kind of off to the side a little bit, but that's okay. But yeah, this division's wide open, so it really does seem like all we can do right now is speculate and watch games and preseason and just kind of expect things from teams as they're going along in terms of their playing their backups and their starters. But it's going to be an interesting season for the NFC East. I definitely think so. They will continue to be the NFC least. We're all equally bad, but someone's going to come out on top, and I really am genuinely do not know who it could be.
Well, it's literally a coin toss times 4 for each team. I think literally every team can win that division. I think rightfully so. They got the talent. If they can stay healthy, of course, that's another thing. If Ryan Fitzpatrick has some magic left in this tank, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Of course, Jalen, we'll see how he does in Philly. 2 more quarterbacks I bring up in teams as well. First off, which wasn't a surprise, unfortunately, I kind of feel bad for him, is Carson Wentz. Poor guy can't stay healthy if his life depends on it. Foot injury, leg injury, I think it's a foot. Something to do with his foot. Out, quote unquote, indefinitely. We don't know timeline on that. Besides feeling bad for the kid, Jacoby Brissett, Sam Ehlinger, any
Jacob Eason. Brissett's not there anymore, I don't think.
Oh, where'd he go? I must have missed that one.
I don't know. He's definitely not a Colt anymore, though. I think he left.
That's
but it's Jacob Eason and Sam Ehlinger, and they are both fairly new. I think Eason was drafted last year, Ehlinger this year, so they're very new guys. But at least Eason has 1 year sitting under Philip Rivers, so he has a little bit more experience, if you want to call it that, or just education and watching and learning. They both had solid games this weekend in preseason, so I think either way it's not a bad I don't think they have a bad choice. I think there's just one that's better, and I think that Eason should be the starter just because he's been in the league an extra year, but otherwise it's not going to be for a long time. I think. I don't know. Who knows what Carson Wentz is going to trip over his own 2 feet and crack his face on the ground for all we know. But he seems to get hurt all the time, and it's just so unfortunate, honestly. He's literally missed out on a Super Bowl because of it. So I think that in terms of the quarterback situation in Indianapolis, Eason is probably going to end up starting, but Carson Wentz will not be far behind. They're giving him like 5 weeks, so he should be coming in by the early season. But again, who knows? This man could take weeks and weeks and weeks extra to get better. We have no idea. He is made of glass. I don't understand.
No, I feel bad for him. Great kid out of North Dakota State. Talented, but just like. Literally, like he steps on something and he's falling. He breaks a bone, he's out. I mean, so on and so forth. And last but not least, Green Bay. Jordan Love really wasn't very impressive. I didn't think anyway. In week 1 of the preseason, of course, Aaron Rodgers. We all know that saga during the offseason.
Right.
Are we finally done talking about Aaron Rodgers? I know he was mentioned to Denver and San Francisco and anybody else that wants to throw his name out in the bucket, but I know he got his extension. Are we finally done with Aaron Rodgers wanting out in Green Bay, or do we think now it's a little quiet for the time being?
I think it's quiet for now. He has come out and said that he's ready to enjoy this season with his team, with his teammates, with some people he's trying to pull back to kind of hold on to those glory years a little bit. Like he brought back Randall Cobb from the Texans. So, yeah, for now, I think we're going to just stick to Aaron Rodgers on the Packers. But next year, this is going to happen all over again. People are going to be trying to find out whether or not he's going to retire or whether or not he's going to go to a new team. And he is getting up there in age, and he's going to be 37, I believe. And I don't think that he has that same longevity as Tom Brady does. So I think that this next year, if they get to the Super Bowl and they win a Super Bowl, I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Rodgers decided to call it a career and just say, like, he went out on top and he was able to succeed. And with the Packers too, it is NFC Championship or bust. Like, they need to get there, and if they don't, it's not good.
Green Bay reminds me so much of, they probably got a little bit more talent than Pittsburgh does, but they're both an older team. I think Pittsburgh's another one that really needs to consider is Mason Rudolph going to be the guy for the future, or they're going to have to go draft wise, or maybe make a trade for a Daniel Jones or Drew Lock, or maybe Jimmy G or something like that. But
yeah,
we'll see. Real quick, Desean Watson. We all know the saga that took place with them. I'm not going to get too much into those kind of details, but I know he still wants to have Houston, but I've said it quite a bit on other people's shows and mine as well, but I wouldn't risk. I know it's kind of risk. It's a Russian roulette, but how much of a value would trade for him for a guy that still has a lot in his tank, but with a lot of baggage coming into the camp?
With Desean, it's really unfortunate, the circumstances that are happening. With everything still up in the air as well, like, nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows if he's even going to be, criminally charged. But if he's not, odds are the NFL is going to suspend him in some sort of way. So even if you get Desean, let's just say he doesn't get arrested and he doesn't go to prison, he's going to get suspended by the NFL, by the commissioner exempt list. That's going to be like 8 games, I believe, is something along those lines. So then you have to remember that he won't be playing for half a season, and there's a lot of baggage coming in. Like you said, like, who's to say nothing in the future will happen that is similar to this. I think it's just not the best idea, but someone will end up picking him up. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know if the Eagles are actually going to keep their word on it and pick him up, but I don't think it's a good idea. It's just not great. And he has his injuries in the past as well. I believe he tore his ACL his first year playing, I want to say.
I believe so, yeah.
So he a lot of things going on with Desean, and Houston, rock bottom. They can only go up. It's really just horrible. Not even just Desean, their whole situation. The Bill O'Brien stuff last year. JJ Watt leaving. It's just, nothing is good there. The whole thing is just bad. But we will end up seeing what happens with Houston. But genuinely, I think that Desean is still in the mix, but definitely his stock has gone down.
Right. I agree. I mean, I don't know exactly. I'm sure someone's going to pull the trigger, take the risk of it. What will the trade value be? I really can't say. I would, honestly, with the baggage, it's probably lowballing, but I definitely wouldn't give up a first round just because we don't know the unknown. It's kind of, but, again, we'll see when time comes if that was the case. But to finish off the show, I usually always ask people, of course, we always, sports is the main focus on the podcast, but, life at the same time is still reality. Going back to 2020, not talking politics. I don't, that's beside the whole shenanigan. But looking back at 2020, of course, we got hit with COVID pretty bad, across the country and across the world and so on and so forth. Isolation in regards to lockdown, shutdown, staying at home, working from home, whatever the case may be for you. But looking back at 2020, especially COVID, what has it to you that maybe not so much pre-COVID related that you were more grateful for until you realized what we had that was taking place in 2020?
So, like, what did I like about COVID?
Kind of like what was it? Was something that you just never took for granted. There we go. And then until we all literally was locked in our own houses, so to speak.
So I think that the main thing that I missed a lot, I mean, now it's a little bit better with vaccines and everything, was seeing people and, like, just being with other people, because I have not seen one of my best friends for almost 2 years because she lives in Japan. So I was supposed to see her last year, you know, like we were supposed to be able to travel, obviously. So that was one of the main things, is like the people that I couldn't see, and the, like, you know, even just hugging. We couldn't hug for a really long time. I'm more comfortable with it now, obviously, now that time has gone on. But it's yeah, that was definitely sucky. But some of the good things that came out of COVID was, well, sad. I lost my job. I was on the unemployment market for a while, but that helped me push into my podcast more. And I started my YouTube channel, and I put a lot more work into my podcast, and I think that definitely really, it helped me gain more of a following and do more things and be more focused on it. And that was what I needed, and I couldn't do it when I was employed. I just didn't have enough time. So with whole days ahead of me of doing nothing, I was able to do that. So I think that was one of the positives out of COVID, was that I was able to put all of my energy into my podcast. But the sad thing was that there was a lot of people that I dearly loved that I still can't see to this day in 2021.
I like that, and people always ask, well, why do you ask that? You know, it's always good, especially when it's other people. You know, I try to get different guests on, especially there are different parts of the country, and one day we'll probably get across the world. I don't know, we'll see. But nonetheless, it's just always interesting because I like to hear people's stories about how COVID affected them, and they don't realize. Well, I didn't realize how much X, Y, and Z meant to me until gone, or we had to deal with it more. And you know, I said it, and it's probably the biggest one. But you know, my dad had a major stroke in April of last year, and so he's literally blind. And so, you know, I just for me, I guess I was more grateful, obviously, for him. Obviously, not seeing him sucked, but in the hospital. But nonetheless, you know, I think it put me in perspective. Like, you don't realize, as much as sometimes growing up you always had, you know, I always remember growing up we played whatever, and all of a sudden you realize now you can't do certain things, and then you kind of. But I think in the end, COVID, just like you, podcast really put more in focus. The YouTube, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there, but but anyway, no, it's been fun. But no, I congratulate. I read on your Twitter, co-hosting another podcast. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. I'm going to be co-hosting Big Blue Avenue, which is going to be a Giants live show with my two friends, Tom and Hank. They've had the show now for a year, and I used to guest on it. Like, I would go on it pretty often, and we made it official that I was going to be a co-host for this upcoming season. So every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be doing a Giants show. In case there's any Giants fans watching, or just people in general that want to watch, it'll be on the Review and Preview Sports Facebook page.
Very nice. Well, congrats. And as always, you're more than welcome to come back. I know during the season, I'm sure there'll be a whole lot more to talk about once we get in full gear and meaningful football. But Sam, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a really good time.
Likewise, catch Sam Cardona on Twitter. I already forgot what your a girl who spoke.
The girl who talks sports.
There you go. There you go. Everyone, have a wonderful evening. Sam, take care of yourself. Be safe out there.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday and the rest of your week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Area Attack Podcast. Listen to us on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to shop at La Touraine Watches. Shop code Air Raid. Get a special discount. And while you're at it, you get a compass free with purchase of any timepiece. Sam, thank you so much and have a wonderful week. And everyone, we will see you tomorrow night for another episode of the Air Attack Podcast. And we'll issue that out over the Twitter at airraid_podcast. Have a wonderful Wednesday night.